Today's June 23rd, 2010. We're in Louis Osmer's home, and we're interviewing him and Diana Bender. And Diana is the one that found it. If you'll tell about when this was, what you was doing, just a little bit about when you found it and all that, what you thought.
I was an 11-year-old kid running around with my dad, who was drilling on claims out at Chloride Flats, and I was just there to hang out with Dad and run around, and it was natural to climb up to the ridge top and just walk along it and see what I could see, and walked around a cliff face, maybe a few feet taller than me, not too big, and it was very obvious right there. I saw it, got all excited about it because it was not normal petroglyphs, and that's it. Been fascinated about it ever since.
So when you found them, did they have lichen in them?
There was no lichen. It wasn't freshly struck surface like he's talking about, like a wagon would make across rock. It looked old. It was the same color as the whole rock face. There wasn't any lichen on it.
And she came directly and told me about it.
And when she told you about it, what was your first opinions when you first seen them? What did you think? Do you think it was old?
I thought it was probably treasure markings relative to the silver fragments on the surface there. I'm a prospector. So I thought, well, they mark where the silver is. Not necessarily the case, but it is a potential consideration. I know that.
So you thought at the time maybe done by Spanish, maybe, or something like that at the time,
I didn't
or
think
an old miner, or
no, I didn't think. Random thoughts. I thought it was very ancient. I still do, and I know that there could be counterfeit inscriptions, but I think it's determinable whether or not they are counterfeit or not. I think Farley was able to judge immediately that it was very old, and I didn't form a particular idea necessarily of who might have done it, although later my thinking was influenced some by having been exposed to the writing pale ink. Somebody said, and this is not applicable, Mong. Well, I don't know. Not an expert, but my life has been devoted mostly to metals, metal determination, small amounts. So I am of the very strong opinion that fragmental remains have to be there. There has to have been some abrading of the implements. Well, they didn't have a vacuum axe to draft up the particles with.
Right.
They
had to build something to stand on to carve these, because it's hard to even take a picture of them.
So to get up there, they had to
hang off the top or build something to stand on to do it. So it wasn't easy to carve it there.
Well, supposing the servants provided you with a simple scaffolding.
So I would imagine that you checked around town and asked if other people had seen it before you guys did. Did you ever hear of any?
No.
To your knowledge, you was the
No.
first that was said.
Not a word. And believe me, we ran these hills like coyotes. We were exposed to everything you can think of. We
Yeah.
had a cavalry unit here in this town. Real mounted United States cavalry. You know, ride horses and put the spurs to them and go hither, thither, and yon, and my God, they couldn't escape from us. There was a reason. They took field rations with themselves. And they were friendly, they were family, you know. So we'd catch a few crackers and maybe a handful of, and I mean just dip your hand in the bean pot. Because you didn't carry your own spoon and your own bowl. Eat the beans out of your hand. We follow the cavalry guys. We when we wanted kicked out of school, we ran our trap lines. Well, what? You got 25 cents for a well-cured skunk hide from Montgomery Ward and the same from Sears Roebuck. So if we wanted to ditch school, we run our trap line. And the skunks inhabit these kinds of places. Believe me, other places too. And the teacher'd send us home. Well, we wouldn't go home. That was license to go out in the hills. We did other things in town. The cowboys would drive a herd in from the northwest, up Bear Creek, across the divide, and down San Vicente Arroyo to the stock pens. But we'd save firecrackers, and there was a thing called a torpedo. Throw it and it'd explode. And we'd turn the herd up the wrong canyon. And they'd be all over town. Cowboys loved it because they could show off. The bosses, the foremen, if they could have, they would have hanged us. And they almost tried a time or two. But anyway, we were in every old rat hole of a mine that you could get into for miles around. We rode bicycles. We rode roller skates. We hiked. My point is, we had exposure. We climbed the rocks. We had our forts and stuff. We'd even save up missiles because we were expert with a slingshot. And I mean deadly. We were as offensive, if we wanted to be, as old David when he hit Goliath right there with a stone. If you knew how, and there's a special technique. Is that thing trained on me?
It's trained on you.
I'm left-handed. You hold it like this. Stone in the pocket, is that clear?
Yep.
2 buckskin thongs, one of them fastened to your second finger, the other gripped in your thumb and first finger. And you swing it behind you. And you swing it on this side. And as it comes down, you can give it some force. And it's surprising how directional you can make that shot. Slingshot. We threw every round rock out of Granite County.
No stone unturned.
So seriously, we really had exposure.
And you never came across them in all that
nothing
exposure?
of the sort even. Not even close. And, you know, strange things happen. I had a big old dog, she'll remember. His name was Tuck. Half boxer. My kid brother had a Jeep. He said, I'm just going to see how far that son of a gun can run in one day. Well, he starts out 8 o'clock in the morning and he drives to the Red Rock Road and he drives to the Mangus Road. And he drove 85 miles that day.
Wow.
Came in about 4:30 in the afternoon. That dog was still ready to go. What I'm telling you is we were all over. Not just the 7-year-olds. But I've prospected and enjoyed it all my life until eye failure has sort of subdued me a little. I still have delusions of grandeur, but I can't think of a section of the country within 15 miles or more that we didn't frequent.
So had you roamed them hills right there before where these inscriptions are? Had you roamed that area before?
Yes, it's
And-
right there.
And never seen them?
We didn't get around to it. We missed them.
Were they kind of hard to see, or when you finally found them, were they just right there and in place, or were they a little bit hard to see, or?
You
We
had
never-
to walk around that rock to see them.
We never looked directly or we would have seen them. No question about that. I wondered about the comfort of the inscriber. You know, we have yucca. You know what yucca is? Huh?
Yeah,
It grows a stalk,
yeah,
fairly lightweight.
yeah.
We have bear grass. My son and I prospected in the U-Bar Cave south here, 100 miles. Big old cave. To give you some background, I think this is worth inserting. An old-timer named Mr. Killian told us about the Bat Cave. So we went there and we looked and looked and looked and couldn't find it. Went back to him and it's there. It's 1,000 feet up that slope. It's a steep slope, but it's there, boys. Finally, he remembered. He said, "Oh, the fence builders built a fence right past the mouth." Oh, so we see the fence, and here's a big old manzanita bush. The only one within 50 miles. Cave entrance was right behind the manzanita bush. You couldn't see the entry hole. So we go inside. It's full of what was called guano. Not really guano, it's sloth dung. Do you know what a sloth is?
Yeah,
You know about the giant ground sloth?
yeah.
Well, that's what this was. But here's this rock, big as a wash tub upside down, smoothed. And around it were chevrons of green and yellow. Green and yellow, green and yellow, green and yellow. And green and yellow paint with the anasazi was very rare. I think Diana may have seen some up at Aztec or somewhere. Do you remember, honey? Colored Indian paintings?
Yes, I don't remember the color.
Okay, now, and I don't care whether you believe this or not, but you can follow it up. There were 24 arrows stuck in the guano around that rock. They were still fletched with their feathers. And they still had their stone points on. And we never touched it. I forbade it, and the guys went along with me. The University of New Mexico, in conjunction with 2 or 3 of the museums, went down there, and they did a dig. 13 feet down in the guano, they unearthed a human hair net. 500 feet long and 5 feet high. Go to Santa Fe and you can see a picture of it. They have it in a chamber that is charged with nitrogen to preserve it. Human hair net, 500 feet long. Now what is the point of this? 2 or 3 things. One, to our everlasting credit, we didn't touch that altar or whatever it was, but I have a reason to point this out. My son and I, particularly my son, would find woven sandals in the cave. Good ones. They're 3/4 of an inch thick. They were a good tread to walk on. They were well woven. They were expertly made. They had a part that came over the big toe. They had a retainer over your instep. A good sandal made of bear grass. What? Do you know what bear grass is, young lady?
No. I'm from
Grows all over this country that high and many, many hundreds of strands.
kind of like our ryegrass.
What'd she say?
It's kind of like our ryegrass back in...
Rye is a wimp compared to this stuff. The edges a little cut you. But you can strip the edge off.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have a fairly strong material to weave with. Approaching how to tie the yucca stalks together, even with supporting legs, so that the artist could address the inscribing in a proper position. I could rig that kind of a seat.
Mm-hmm.
We knew how to take 3 or 4 coats and make a damn good stretcher out of 2 yucca stalks. I intend by this to indicate that, and I haven't seen any of the other sites, that the inscriber might have been accommodated with assistants. That's TS, not a group. He had some assistants, maybe. Maybe it was a lady. Ladies have a delicate touch. I don't know.
One other quick question for you. You're being an expert at mining and metals and all that. How long, if you had the proper tool, do you think it would take you to carve one of them panels?
3 days.
3 days? It'd take that long, you think?
Well, you weren't.
It was neatly done.
You weren't too hurried.
You're exactly right. They had to take their time to get all the detail and get it right and not mess it up.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. They couldn't mess it up.
They didn't. There's no, out here, there's no botches.
Yep.
It's cleanly inscribed.
That's how all of them are. There's no blotches. They've taken their time and was careful
Okay,
on
let's
each
touch
side.
on this one. Because we're open-minded. And the idea came from Diana years ago. and I'm not a religious fanatic of any kind, but there was a consideration. There was a Mormon seen, that's SWEN, at many of these sites, it has been said. Huh?
That's one of the theories, yep.
Well, let's look at that a little bit. Brigham Young led his people from Illinois to Great Salt Lake. There were branch groups that went to Mexico when it became unlawful to practice polygamy. But knowing early histories of practically every mining camp in the West, they weren't per se or specifically Mormon camps. They were a hodgepodge of all sorts of citizens. So I don't think the Mormon theory holds any water. My strong opinion that the rock endures. The inscribers were aware of this. Now what message they were conveying is beyond me. I don't know what they were saying. I just have some notions, ideas. Mineral, that might be one. I don't know. Other amenities like wood and water, grass, maybe. But it just jumps out at you. They are authentic and they are ancient. That's my very strong leaning for whatever it's worth.
You guys got any more questions?
Nope, I'm good.
Man,
Okay.
we really appreciate this,
Hey,
Louis.
you're surely welcome.